Hi, Isabelle here from 22-Way Nordbay. Now, warmer weather is finally upon us, if it can stay for once. So some of you may be turning to outdoor running to maintain your fitness, and this is awesome. However, as with any kind of activity with impact, it can come with overuse injuries, such as runner's knee pain, which is pain in the kneecap area, as well as injuries in the IT band and feet. So in today's video, I will give you some tips and exercises to try and prevent that kind of injury. The first tip is to gradually increase your training volume and the intensity of your training. Now that applies to any kind of training, especially if you're just starting out and your body's not used to it. Obviously, the pace at which you can increase your training volume will greatly vary depending on tons of factors, such as your current fitness level, your training background, past injuries. So this is not by all means an individual exercise prescription, but a general rule of thumb that applies to most people is the 10% rule. And that means that you should not increase your training volume by more than 10% per week. So if we use running as an example, if you're currently running for a total of 30 minutes in a week, so not including the time that you spend walking, obviously, if you're doing intervals, so just the total amount of time that you're actually running, then the following week, you should not be running more than 10% of that time. So that would mean 33 minutes in total. And if we're using that example, after 4 weeks, you would be running about 40 minutes in the whole week. So see, it's a very slow increase in training volume, but this is important to reduce as much as possible the risk of injury. Performing mobility exercises regularly, by that I mean at least 3 times per week, reduces your risk of injury. If your ligaments, tendons, and muscle fibers are adapted to greater ranges of motion, they can better handle impact and external forces and are more resilient to stress. The first mobility exercise that I recommend for runners is a kneeling quad stretch. Come into a lunge position, your front leg is at a 90-degree angle, and then reach for your back foot with either 1 or 2 arms, depending on your level of comfort, and gently pull your foot towards you. As you do this, make sure you squeeze your glutes to focus the stretch in your quad and not in your low back. And go really slowly, really gently as you pull the foot in. Make sure you're not feeling any pain. If you feel pain, that means you're going too far for what your body can handle. So we don't want to feel any pain. We want to feel a deep stretch in the front of the quad. And I recommend you hold this for about 30 seconds and perform 2 to 4 sets per leg. Now this is a very intense stretch, and you may not have the necessary mobility to perform it safely. So if you're not able to reach for your foot, or you're feeling any pain or any major discomfort, you can place your knee on a higher surface. In this example, I'm using a chair. You can place your knee on a couch as well. Try different heights, see what feels better for you. And again, making sure you're gently pulling your knee in, squeezing the glutes to focus the stretch in your quad, and doing it at a pace that's right for you, making sure you're not feeling any pain, and holding this for 30 seconds, 2 to 4 times per leg. The second exercise that I strongly recommend is a supine glute stretch. I like to perform this one against a wall, but you don't need a wall to do it. Lying down on your back, cross one leg on top of the other. Make sure it's on top of your knee joint, not on the knee directly. And then reach for your bottom leg and pull your bottom leg towards you. You should feel a deep stretch in the glute of the top leg. Try to flex your ankle out and press the knee out of the top leg as much as you can. If you're doing it against the wall, get close to the wall, place your bottom foot on the wall, and press against it. You can also flex your foot like I'm doing here, and you're going to feel the increase in the intensity of the stretch in the top leg. So stretching the glutes is very important. Most people have tight glutes, especially if you're spending lots of time sitting. and this causes a snowball effect that increases the tension in the IT band and down to the knee joint, and it's the root cause of many injuries in the lower body. So stretch your glutes. Now on to the calves and Achilles. A great way to stretch this area is to step on a step. So placing the ball of your foot on the edge of the step, let your heel drop as far as you can, keeping your leg fully straight, and you should feel a deep stretch in your Achilles and calf muscles. Hold again for about 30 seconds and perform the stretch 2 to 4 times per leg. So this is a general guideline to make sure the stretch is effective that comes from research. A great way to loosen up the IT band is to use a foam roller. They are fairly cheap and, in my opinion, worth the investment. But if you don't want to buy one, there are different ways to make your own DIY foam roller, so I recommend you Google that. Or you can even use your kitchen rolling pin or a ball, such as a tennis ball, a lacrosse ball, or a baseball. So we don't want to roll on the IT band directly. We want to focus on the muscles surrounding the IT band. So starting with the outside of your quad in the front of your thigh, place the roller or the ball just on top of the knee joint, and you can cross the other leg over to support your weight and reduce sensitivity. If you feel it's not intense enough, you may want to extend the top leg so you have more of your weight on the roller. But it should not be painful. It should be slightly uncomfortable but not painful. Then roll really slowly, starting from the knee joint all the way up to the hip joint and then back down to the knee joint. A good rule of thumb is to roll 2 inches in one direction and then 1 inch back. So starting from the knee joint, roll 2 inches up towards the hip and then down 1 inch until you get to the hip, and then reverse the direction, so going down 2 inches towards the knee, 1 inch up until you get back to your knee joint. Once you're done with your quad, you can move on to the hamstrings. So place yourself so that the roller is on the back of your thigh, more on the outside. And you can also cross the top leg behind this time to support your weight. Or if you want it to be more intense, you can fully extend both legs. Same principle, starting on top of your knee joint, moving up 2 inches towards the hip, back down 1 inch until you get to the hip, and then reversing the direction, going down 2 inches towards the knee, up 1 inch towards the hip until you get back to your knee joint. And then perform the same routine on the other leg. It should take you about 5 to 10 minutes total. Mobility exercises are great for injury prevention, but so are activation exercises for muscle groups that are important for knee stability when running. The first exercise I recommend is a single leg squat. With your back leg bent at a 90-degree angle, foot off the ground, focus on your supporting leg. Bend your knee as much as possible, making sure your heel remains on the ground. The purpose of this exercise is to focus on knee tracking. It is not a pistol squat. You can look at your knee to make sure it remains in a straight line on the way down and on the way up, trying to reduce side-to-side movement as much as possible. I recommend you perform 3 sets of 5 reps per leg. If you feel that your knee is wiggling a lot or you have a hard time maintaining your balance, you can use a support. In this example, I'm using a chair. Just try to place the least amount of weight possible on the support so that your leg muscles have to do most of the work. So I recommend you just put the tip of your finger on the support just for balance. And same amount of reps, so 3 sets of 5 reps per leg. The next exercise focuses on both glute activation and core stability. Come to a side plank position, your bottom knee remaining on the ground and making sure your shoulder is in line with the elbow. Lift the top leg until it's in line with your hip. You should feel your glute contracting as you do that. Perform 3 sets of 5 reps per side. The last exercise is also a glute activation exercise. It's called a clamshell. Now you can perform this without any equipment, but if you do want additional resistance, the best would be to use a resistance band if you have one at home that you can wrap around your legs on top of the knee joint. Otherwise, you can use a strap like I'm showing here or a belt. If you're using that, you need to figure out how much resistance you want at the top of the movement and then just keep the slack. So you're gonna lay on your side, support your head comfortably, and then bend your knees slightly. Starting with your knees together, you're just gonna lift the top leg, keeping your feet together, and at the top of the movement, you should feel a contraction in your glutes, and then bring your knee slowly back to the starting position. Perform 15 reps total, 1 to 2 sets per side. I recommend you perform these mobility and activation exercises 2 to 3 times per week, and also make sure to gradually increase your training volume to run better and for longer. Most importantly, get outside, get some sun and much needed vitamin D, and have fun.